Welcome back, everyone. Another show here on Red Spotlight Entertainment. This is episode 332. I'm your host today, Alexys J. Soto, and I'm joined by Mr. Kyle Lira. How are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm also joined today by Miss Alexys Moreno and Mr. David Francisco.
Hello.
Hi.
And Peter's here too.
Hello.
Today is another part of our Avatar recap series. Last time we did the first 10 episodes of Season 1, Book 1, Water. And today we'll be wrapping up Season 1 with the last 10 episodes, which would be episodes 12 through 20. So, you know what this is. Alexys, take it away.
What about 11?
It's 11 to 20, isn't it?
11 to 20, yes, you're right. So, Alexys, take it away.
I have breaking news.
Yes.
Spanish porn star Nacho Vidal, who likes to advertise his aromatic candle shaped like a male genitalia on Twitter, has been arrested on manslaughter charges following a man's death during a mystic ritual in which he inhaled psychedelic toad venom.
It's kind of relevant. It's kind of relevant because they suck the toad venom in Avatar: The Last Airbender, so it kind of ties in. You know, it's kind of relevant.
Oh my god!
I just felt that was a headline worth saying. Okay, go ahead, Miss Moreno.
Well, I don't know.
Wait, okay, Peter, what are your thoughts on the first 10 episodes of the season?
Oh, the first 10 episodes. That's actually a good question.
See, you should ask David to host it, not me.
Needs a little bit more M. Night, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my god.
It was missing his heart. No, this is the first 10. God damn it. I should have written down the episodes so I can better clearly remember what episodes they were. But I know at least the first
I could tell you. I have them right here.
Mm-hmm. I really, really liked them. It's one of those shows where it's because a lot of shows, it's well, they gotta find their footing. That sometime around season 2, they figure it out, and then it becomes amazing. But this,
like Hannah Montana.
Die. This show, though, I think it had its footing from the very beginning. The first few episodes are not slow, but they're obviously setting everything up, because I think, is it the first 2 or 4 or something like that, 2 or 3 are all the same story about Aang coming out of the ice, and then
the first two,
okay, and then so
they move on,
yeah, and then their first encounter with what's his name, Zuko. I don't know why I mix up Sokka and Zuko, but I do.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, their first encounter with them, and it's basically this is the premise. These are your main characters. Go, but it's still really funny and interesting throughout all of that. And the film very quickly, within those 10 episodes, does a lot of good world building. And I can't remember the exact, but I remember when I watched the first 10 episodes, I was like, okay, I know for a fact this comes back, and this comes back, and this comes, Boomy. I forgot the name of his earthbending city. Huh? Omashu, yeah. But that, of course, not only does it come back in season 2, but it comes back for the finale. Spoilers. But yeah, because there are, and this is why I think people love the show so much, I don't know if there's a single episode that's simply filler.
Yeah.
Well, there's one that we can talk about in this season.
He thinks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we'll get to it.
But just about everything else is either pretty good character development, or okay, this comes back. Like, I just, like, from remembering watching the show, like, oh fuck, like I remember this comes back, and then this comes back, and then that, and they build off that shit. So yeah. No, I mean, yeah, great first 10 episodes. Do you have like the plots or the names for the first 10 episodes? Okay, yeah. Or not the first 10, the 11 through 20. I know how it ends with them at the water. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
So episode 11 is called The Great Divide, and this is the episode that David says is a filler episode. I disagree, but
is that when it's like the two warring like tribes
or something? Yeah.
That episode is actually like pretty much hated amongst a lot of fans.
Really?
Just being like it's just really pointless and nothing. These characters, these clans, they don't come back at all in like the rest of the series, and it doesn't really add anything much to it other than just some
the fan community hates an episode whose message is, hey, maybe if you stop yelling at each other like a bunch of idiotic morons and stop focusing on your stupid differences, maybe you can actually get along. That, of course, is the episode the fandom who does these things hates. Well, wow, what a shock.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty pointless message and not necessary within the Avatar world, Last Airbender world. So,
right, because... right, it's not as if, the Fire Nation didn't just attack out of nowhere, like and everything. And maybe war itself could be avoided if people just sat down and listened to each other, know?
But even the creators themselves find it pointless, so...
It's not pointless.
Let me just say this. I don't care if it's pointless or not. The message itself, I mean, the fact that... Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think... I actually never knew until recently that this episode was really hated, but this is like one of the episodes that always stuck with me because of what they were trying to do. And I think David had told me that one of like the big criticisms that they have is that Aang at the end lied to them so that they could get along.
But I mean, they were all so stupid, so it's like...
I mean, it also just tells you that people need to be lied to in order to get along sometimes. And I think part of what I found, watching it again, relatable, is, of course, it was just a petty feud. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean anything. And of course, Alexis and I often like to invoke our Mexican families. And I'm sure we've encountered some kind of, interfighting in some family members because of petty feuds like that. Mm-hmm. And it very much reminded us watching it kind of be festered in this episode, in that sort. And like, is it like the best episode? Far from it. Yeah. That's a pretty high bar. Mm-hmm. But like...
It's not the worst.
I don't know if I'd say it. I think I enjoyed it better than Jet.
Yeah,
which was the previous episode, mm-hmm. right? Episode 10. But I don't know if I'd say it is the worst. And that also brings a different question, which I think we can like tease here and then like cover at the very end of this episode, mm-hmm. is whether or not series 1 is either underappreciated in general, underrated, overrated, because I know that there's also like the differences between ranking the seasons. Book 1, yes.
One.
Yeah.
This isn't England, sir. Series
if I may
1,
throw my hat in the ring, I think that, to me, with Avatar, I don't think that there is a bad episode per se. There's a lot, there's some frustrating things, but it's just like characters going about the gist about growing and everything like that, like Zuko and everything like that, especially when we get into like book 2 and mm-hmm. the turn, and he was so close and everybody was so close, and then it just like everything got swept under their feet, and you don't like it's just part of the process of storytelling. You're going to be frustrated with some things that, happen in the story, but, as long as it's for the sake of growth, like this is part of growing, and this is part of like the journey that you take. There, there are going to be hiccups,
It's also, it's important to also throw this out there, because we may have different like interpretations of what we consider filler to be. So like, for what David was saying, as far as like a plot standpoint, yeah, nothing in this episode really builds to how a lot of other things in this season are building toward, the next seasons, the future storylines, and of course the grand design of the finale. But at the same time, the lessons that particularly I want to say Sokka and Katara learn here can kind of help them as a team with not, bickering all of the time.
Yeah.
Which, siblings, there's a pair of siblings in front of me right now, are prone to doing. So it depends, I think, entirely on like whether or not you feel the lessons that are in this episode could have been handled better overall, and perhaps it feels filler-y, but I don't know. I guess like filler to me, and I've seen a lot of shows with filler, is like completely dead weight. Like there's just nothing to it. Like a waste of time.
Filler to you is when you don't like it.
Basically, yeah. And I like this, so.
And then another thing is like, I think that, from the other ones, like the first 10 episodes, I think this is like the first time we see like what an avatar is supposed to do, like
part of that, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I like this episode.
It's an interesting challenge. You're right, though, because it's not just like mastering the elements. It's another aspect of being the ceremonial avatar,
being a peacekeeper,
right? And that sort. So I don't know. Like, well, Kyle, Peter, what about you guys? How do you feel about this episode?
It's okay.
It's definitely not the greatest. We're not gonna clamor over that. It's no Sozin's Comet, But it does lend itself to seeing like more of the world and what the world does and the inner turmoil of the world, and just how like this war is just like more deep seated than people realize, because it's just two like groups out in the middle of freaking nowhere, and they're dealing with how the inner divide is not just amongst like the Fire Nation and everything like that. It's like there's something there definitely.
They're basically like immigrants, because what is it, there's like a specific word, they're like
fugitives,
refugees because the Fire Nation took over their towns, and like I don't know, I feel like there's just a lot to this episode. And yeah, I agree. Like, it's not the best episode, but there's a lot to take from it, I think.
And again, and I'm not even sure. It's funny. The episode is called Great Divide, and by all pretense, there may be a divide amongst ourselves here, but I wouldn't even categorize it as that much of a divide, because I think we're all along the same lines here, where it's like
Star Wars Episode 8, The Great Divide.
even in an episode like this, there are things here that are, that do a lot in terms of broadening out the world with, of course, the endless, really creative creature designs that and frightening in a lot of these. Those crawlers were disgusting, and horrific. I will say that.
They're just hungry.
Fuck them. Yeah. So world building. Hey, there's that.
The lore.
Of course, no one. Yeah, the lore and everything.
What's the other episodes?
Okay, so episode 12 is The Storm.
That's the best episode of the...
Oh, really? You like this episode?
Wait, it's the one I think.
Sorry, go. No, go.
This is the episode where we find out how Aang found out he was the Avatar, and then
Zuko,
how he got his scar.
Yeah, that's the best episode of the season. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's really cool.
Because go ahead.
Go ahead, Peter.
I said it first.
We all okay. Well, no, yeah, it's just really interesting to see how Aang reacted to the whole being the Avatar thing, and it's just kind of nice to get a look at his home, like how it was filled with airbenders and all that. And I think the best thing for me about this episode was kind of seeing the relationship between Aang and Monkiatsu. I hope I said that right.
Yeah.
You do see a great bond between the two and a father-son relationship. It really just almost breaks your heart in the end, finding out just how everything turned out. And I think one of the last lines Gyatso says is like, I won't let them take him away from you or from me.
Mm-hmm.
It really is sad.
It's one of those things, and also it shines a light on the overbearing guilt that Aang has and continues to have throughout the whole entire series until he actually faces Ozai. Spoilers. But you get this sense like, this is a really heavy burden on a freaking 12-year-old, and the relationships that he makes he is very much in his formative years of like development, and this whole thing is just going on. It's kind of it's kind of why Steven Universe is so fascinating. I know you guys haven't seen it, but David has. Okay. We got one in the house. The overburden of like what Steven is destined to do is like really, really taxing on a child, especially in their formative years of development, that it can't go ignored. I think that war and children and everything like that, yes, but you got to realize that they're still developing as people, and this is like the most crucial part of them developing as people. And I think that makes it like, I don't know, I think that makes the personal stakes more higher, because they are very impressionable and everything that happens to them is very deep seated in what's going on. So I don't know. It is a really good episode, and seeing the two things, and also Zuko, because Zuko was freaking young as well, and he's also impressionistic on everything going around him.
Yeah, it's really cool to have both stories like side by side. Like one was just like horrible and should not happen to a kid, and then the other one was just like coming to terms and like what he has to do and his role in the world and stuff, and it's just like it's too much.
I think both of those things are true for both people when you think about it.
Yeah.
Both were horrible. They were both put in a very uneasy situation, and they didn't ask to be put in this situation. They were just kind of born into it.
I think and we mentioned this in the last episode, the little like hints there, but it was kind of more explicit in this episode, just how it's really telling you that Zuko and Aang and their journeys are completely intertwined. They're intertwined all the way to the end of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Peter? I feel like we cut you off.
No.
What were
yeah, this is the episode where the characters got layers. Zuko wasn't just the bumbling bad guy that was trying to take down Aang, and Aang wasn't just your child hero that's gonna save the day.
Happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
Boy in tights, like how it's portrayed later in the third book. Much like to the vein of Peter Pan, just like, oh, look at me, I'm joyous of being me.
You could almost say that this episode really begins to elevate the show.
Yeah,
with these two characters.
Yeah, it's the show that really, where you go like, oh, like there's more to this than meets the eye.
Also getting sorry.
No, go ahead.
Also getting a glimpse at the cruelness of Ozai, just getting a little glimpse of his.
Well, you get a glimpse at all, because before it's just like, oh yeah, the fire. Like up until that point, you have no idea who the fuck he is. Like and you really don't even know until the season 3, the last episodes. It's interesting. Firelord Ozai is really built up, but he's not really a character. Which is interesting. There's no complaints there.
Is Ozai like? I know like he's like a character, but is he like a metaphor?
No. He's just a bad guy.
Yeah,
Just bad guy. Just final boss.
he's Palpatine, honestly.
Yeah.
Just like, you don't need to know much about him, but like, you know, he's the big guy to stop.
The first episode of Korra opens up with the dead speak.
Oh my god, I would die. No, but yeah, this is a really good episode. Okay, so episode 13 is like one of my personal favorites. It's
Same.
The Blue Spirit.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's another all-time great one.
This one to me just has the greatest, the best fighting sequence in this season, at least.
You could almost put the Storm and the Blue Spirit almost as like two-parters for what they're trying to achieve, I think.
That's right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I like this episode because it does build up Zhao now as like a big bad in this season. He like has like a secret archer army ready to attack Aang and all that.
He's promoted as Admiral, I think, in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, he was promoted and he knows exactly what he can do. And then I think we get like a bit more of Aang's powers in this. Like he has like super speed or some shit.
When he leaves.
Yeah, and then he also just tries to use more of water bending to his skill set. Like I think this might be the first time he uses ice. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. And then what is it? No, yeah. Then when you see the Blue Spirit and just their teamwork, trying to get out of the prison is just the best thing ever. You know everything that's gonna happen right before, and you just see it and you see it once you see it happening. Like it's really impressive. And then once you get to reveal who the Blue Spirit is, it is kind of surprising that Zuko has other skill sets other than firebending. And I like that scene after where Aang tries to convince him to be friends. And
Well, I don't think he tries to convince him. I think he's just saying like, basically asking him, do you think it would be different if we weren't in the positions that we're in?
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, yeah, that's better actually. What do you guys think?
I like a lot. He's very good. Yeah, I agree. Like some awesome action sequences. I wasn't on the first episode, so I guess I should say like the action for this show is pretty fucking insane. Like they never run out of amazing shit to do with like the bending and the martial arts. And I'm not even like, even from like some of Korra that I saw, that they were like reinventing how to use, you know, these powers and stuff like that. It's really, they're bending. It's really fucking good. And then sort of the tag team between Aang and the Blue Spirit as they try to escape. The back and forth, it's like they help each other. He, you know, uses his airbending to throw him into the air, and then he, you know, with his swords doing this and that. It's really good. Really good. And with the last episode, you now understand why Zuko is being driven so hard. right? So when he ends up doing this, like becoming the blue spirit, it's both understandable and like heartbreaking to a certain extent, because you do get a sense of like, oh, like the good he could do if he, wasn't on this path. And then Aang really brings it home at the end, where he's like, at another time, do you think we would have been friends or something like that? And then Zuko responds in a very Zuko way.
but I like how it also just like tells you like his actual reason for doing the things that he does. Like, it's not just because he wants his honor. Like, he just wants to go home. Like, he just wants to be with his family.
He has,
and like the lengths that he will go to get there. He
has displaced love for his father and a need to earn his respect, because he was abused. So, and that's it's interesting. It's compelling as far as a villain goes in that character.
And one thing that shouldn't be forgotten here about Zuko, and I'm just recalling as we're having this discussion, is while, the first few episodes, he is portrayed, at least for those episodes, as like the main recurring antagonist because of how often he relentlessly searches for Aang. This whole premise of him being the banished prince and, regaining his honor, we see in the storm. Okay, so all this happened because he was disgusted by the Fire Nation's brutality and that they would sacrifice their own forces. And he was basically punished for having a soul. And so you kind of get a really good indication there that, okay, so Zuko ain't really bad here. He's trying to do bad things, but to say that he's like evil, which I'm not even sure, like, because Iroh has been around the entire series at this point, and you see inner moments of humanity in most of the episodes, but when that origin story basically happens and we see in the storm, you really just begin to understand, and it kind of all falls into place, like, oh, yeah, you really are.
We also forgot to mention that in the Storm episode, Iroh is the one telling Zuko's story to people on his ship that are just like, why is he the way that he is, type of thing, like complaining about him. And Iroh's like, no, like, there's more to him, type of thing. Like, it's not, like, oh, I love him.
And also, like, you get like inklings of what he was like as a child too. You could tell that he was just going about the motions of this fucked up family that he has, and like it's not even coming from like Ozai. His sister was fucked up as well. So it's just...
No, we'll get to her. We have plenty of weeks to get to her. She's a whole different case all in of itself. So yeah, that was Blue Spirit. Love the mask. Pretty creepy. Yeah. Kind of an image that stays with you. I'm not even sure if Peter was alluding to it, but when he was talking about the fighting style of the series, and I think David might have mentioned this, or maybe I just read this, but we were all aware of the fact that the creators of the series used and drew from several different types of martial arts for the fighting style of the series, as well as the bending of the elements.
Yeah.
So,
but it has no right being that good.
It's one of those things like when you realize, like, wow, this shit aired on Nickelodeon, huh?
Like,
and detailed.
Kung Fu Panda ain't got shit on the Last Airbender. That's all I'm saying. And that's like a big ass lot of money production, and this is just a Nickelodeon cartoon. The fact that they're able to pull off what they're able to pull off is pretty crazy.
You're basically saying it has no right being this good, considering what it was supposed to be, and like it's one of those examples of going above and beyond.
Okay, episode 14.
This is the fortune teller.
Yes.
This was funny. I like it because this is This is the most in the entire series that I ever like connect with Sokka.
I know, right?
And you just like you it's the most you like I know, I get you. You're
We've
so
all
right.
seen the meme. We've all seen the meme, of course, of that Ba Sing Se girl about no virus being in Ba Sing Se. But really, this show and watching it again in the age of coronavirus is so shocking, especially since in this episode, the fortune teller, you have the basic premise of these people who are what word can I use?
Not brainwashed, but something
Morons.
like that. Yeah, you know what? Yeah,
They live their entire life by the fortune teller. And
they die.
because there's this thing where it's like, the fortune teller, because Sokka's trying to argue with him, the fortune teller said that I would meet the love of my life in red shoes, so now I only wear red shoes. And then they're like, okay, don't you see how now that you always wear red shoes, eventually if you meet the love of your life, like, do you not realize how you're making the fortune like come true?
It's very Wizard of Oz in that sense, because that is what the premise of Oz of the Wizard of Oz is. Like he has a whole city named after him.
Effort into that grift. Like I don't think this fortune teller did.
big projections and a huge like special effects freaking thing. Yeah, the Oz ain't. You know, the fortune teller ain't got shit on Oz.
Like at the end when they save them. They're just like, well, technically she was right. We didn't die. We didn't have to worry about the volcano. So her fortune came true. And it's like, there's no winning.
My favorite part is Aang getting his, like, the lady giving him his fortune, and she's like, oh, this big evil, and fire everywhere, and he's like, yeah, but like...
He's like, yeah, I already know all that shit. Like...
That was hilarious. You know, that's like one of the signature trademarks of the series, among many, is the humor.
Mm-hmm. The humor's been good from the beginning.
Oh my God, is it? And it always remained. And that's why I felt like that kind of humor is so appropriate in animation. In live action,
I don't know.
Different story,
works.
I feel.
Yeah.
Different story. But in this sense, it works so well. And of course, just the effect of it, where the fortune teller is so shocked, like, oh my God, this amazing prophecy. And then Aang's like, yeah, but what about the girl? And it's just so great.
Yeah. And then, of course, this episode also serves to plant the seeds of continued romance. Maybe they will eventually of
I feel like this is the most overt it's been in the series so far. Anyway.
Before he's just kind of been shown to want to get her attention. But this is just straight up like, I want to end up with her kind of stuff. So yeah. So again, that I think it worked on that level for the characters level. And then the shit with the stupid town was funny.
No, this episode's like had some hilarious moments in it, but I really like towards the end when they're saving the town from the lava, and you really got to see like almost Aang's like full potential of his airbending skills, and even Sokka says a line, it's like, "Dang, I forget how powerful that kid is," and also just that little bit of a message. It's like it took this long, but it was just literally just to give this little message of the fortune teller saying, you know, whatever the fucking bones say, the fire, whatever you are meant to do, you still have a choice in your own destiny type of thing. And so, like, with him coming towards the end, you'll see that, like, you know, he knows he has to face the Fire Lord, but he has to make a big choice, and everyone's telling him one thing, and it does play off towards the end, which is what I like about the episode.
There's another aspect from a technical standpoint that, again, we've referenced earlier about how in many aspects the show is so much better than it had any right to be, and how it already begins to elevate itself from how good it was. Well, that sequence you just pointed out of stopping the volcano, like, that's expensive to do. Like a lot of, and then we'll go off further on in the series. We'll introduce some 3D like elements with the tanks in a 2D setting.
It's CGI, and I didn't realize it till recently. Like, because we watched one of the audio commentaries, and they mentioned that they did do CGI, and actually their test footage, a lot of it was in CGI. And then me and him looked at each other and we were like, wait, there was CGI? And I was like, oh yeah, like a lot of the weapons are CGI.
It's just impressive to me how they were able to get away with that, considering, and again, I don't know the circumstances, but this is season 1. This is, I would assume, like well before the series really, like, I would assume, and I think you do see that in seasons 2 and 3, there is more of a higher budget in a lot of sequences. Oh, yeah. But this is before I would think Nickelodeon realized what they had. And so the fact that they could do this with the money they had is so good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Which
sorry.
episode was it with the panda? That was in the first 10, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. This was
the spirit panda.
That was the first part of Frozen Comet.
This was imprisoned? No.
The Winter Solstice.
Winter Solstice Part 1, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Because I just wanted to say real quick, that was the first episode I'd ever seen of Avatar, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, like, there's a wider story going on. So I just stopped watching it because I didn't just want to randomly like drop in and it's like, what the fuck is going on? I haven't been paying attention. And again, at that point, I had no idea how to go back and watch anything, but I was like, okay, it seems like there's a wider story trying to be told here.
I've actually heard of a lot of people like that they started watching it like during the 3rd season. And they just got like super invested in it like super quick, so they instantly like would go back to like iTunes and stuff and download all of the seasons. But like so many people have like did that. It's funny.
Yeah, I didn't really watch until like the last half of this season when it was originally airing. But yeah, you know what? Another aspect that is unique to this series is that because it is a show that's on Nickelodeon, an animated Nickelodeon show, like it's again in this aspect unlike anything else because everything else airing at that time is just episodic. Like it's very much run of the mill, what you would imagine a Nickelodeon Nicktoon to be, and yet in this series, no, it is a serialized story where it's an overarching storyline, plot line, arc. Yeah, completely. In some ways, you could say in a little bit before its time. Because now we have a lot of those kind of shows, if not all of them.
Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah, so we are going to episode 15, which is Bato of the Water Tribe.
I don't remember this one.
So this is the one where they find one of the Southern Water Tribe members that got hurt and he got left behind. To heal.
With their dad that knew their dad?
Yeah.
Bato.
Okay.
Bato. They find Bato, who is part of their dad's army.
We should have just said Bato.
The Fire Nation.
Obviously. Come on.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know Bato?
Yeah. This one, I really like this episode. It's one of a few that really, to me, I think focuses a lot on Sokka. You see just how much he has to live up to with like being the leader of the group, taking care of everyone in the Southern Water Tribe, and kind of just him wanting to become the man that everyone wants him to be. He expects from others. No, wait, what? Yeah,
he thinks others expect from him.
Thank you, and really just the kind of man that he wants to be. And you get like a bit of a tradition. You see a tradition in the Southern Water Tribe with them going. I can't remember what it was called, but they basically have to ride around the water, dodge a bunch of icebergs. But in this case,
they gotta do some dumb shit.
Yeah, but you really got to see more of Sokka's intelligence in this episode too, with him
what
getting
he brings to the group.
what he brings to the group and just how creative he can get with like the right team on his side. Yeah.
We also like how we saw Aang doing some dumb shit too.
Yeah.
Yes, that too. Yeah, we see like which is understandable.
I like this story arc for Aang because I feel like this is the first time we see him actually being a kid and being irresponsible and, you know, learning
Selfish.
from his mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also at the same time, like, you feel for him. Like, these are the only people that he knows now, and he feels like they're gonna leave him. So I don't know. Everything that has to do with like Aang and like his people, like, I can't take it. I hate it. Not that I hate it, but just, I think it's so sad.
It's all his fault too.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What's it called?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
also
yeah.
see the stuff with Zuko and June, the bounty hunter.
Oh,
This is the
yeah.
episode that we were talking about, Peter, where Iroh threw himself. at
yeah,
June.
that was the one where it was.
Talk about that.
Okay,
What did
you know what
see
I'm
there?
gonna say? I'm gonna say this show has aged remarkably well. Like
In almost
remarkably.
every aspect.
Yeah, if this show came out today, it would be called SJW propaganda. There'd be 100. All the people praising it would be, if it came out today, would be making all kinds of YouTube videos about how it's trash. Like I don't have time to talk about it, but in the first 10 episodes, they literally have like. They tackle Sokka's toxic masculinity, and he's like, "You're a girl, you can't fight." But then he eventually has to put on, make up a skirt, and go to, you know, those women fighters and be like, "Hey, I was wrong to assume
Yeah.
based on, you know, your gender, who you are," and da 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 da. And then of course, they do something even farther than that in the fucking final, second to last episode, which we'll get to with the Water Tribe. But yeah, this was the one thing that made me go, ooh, would not happen today. You know, it also just feels very out of character for Iroh in like just on a character
did.
level, because he's
Yeah.
never been like that, not before that and not since then afterwards. So it was weird.
And they do kind of bring that back later on when they meet her again, and she's like, "Oh, where's your creepy uncle?" Like,
But it's just like he's never been creepy in any other.
yeah.
So to just have this one moment of creepiness it's kind of comes out of left field, you know. And again, I'm sure back then they're just like, "Oh, LOL, old creepy guy." But today it's like, "Oh no, old creepy guy." So yeah. I like the mole rat. I like how they both, when it comes to like the world, there's instances where it feels like they both give a shit and don't give a shit at the same time. And I think the animals are a prime example of that, because it's like for every animal they just combine two animals and say, "That's an animal." That a duck turtle, boom, animal. We put a turtle show on a duck. There you go. But at the same time, I also think like they're designed really well and interesting.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's just like like they got an intern, like, bring in pictures of animals and we're gonna throw darts to see which ones we're gonna combine. But yeah, I liked her little mole dragon creature or whatever. Oh, that shit was cool. The way they like paid her to track him down.
I think you mentioned something interesting, Peter, about the fact that if this show had come out today, it would be attacked for all those things from those crowds. But that only just begs the question then, because there will be an Avatar: The Last Airbender TV show coming out in today's modern age. in live action, no less, which you might even argue that the scrutiny will be much more visceral with live action, considering how these people glorify live action as the end all be all, it seems like. But if they try and replicate what Avatar did, the social messages are part of what makes Avatar so special, and I'm sure they will, and they'll adapt it into live action. But I can almost see the writing on the wall where, like, even like, let's say those people that love The Last Airbender but do not understand or reconcile the messaging that is contra to their politics are going to openly attack the live action series as being political and, like,
you know
SJW.
what? I feel like there's a good chance this happens where the show just isn't that good or isn't as good as the cartoon, and they, instead of like actually like actively digging in and trying to understand, okay, why did it not work in live action to the same extent as animation? What are the drawbacks? And they'll just go like, it didn't work because they added SJW propaganda. And then when everyone will be like, whoa, like this same shit was in the original show, and it's like, yeah, but this time it's in your face.
It wasn't. Yeah.
It's gonna
totally
be like
gonna
that
do
kind of stuff. Like,
And you know why I know you're right? Because David and I can speak to this. That's exactly what happened in the Doctor Who community when they cast a woman to play the Doctor. And it ended up being that Series 11 was received as by far the worst series of the new iteration. And those people, instead of like calling on the real issues at hand that bogged down the series, they immediately went to, oh, you see, Jodie Whittaker, bad actor, a woman shouldn't play the Doctor. And then also on top of that, the show became too political when Doctor Who was always political. Always.
these people are ruining like this kind of
Life.
ruining life. Yeah, but mostly their own. But they're ruining like film criticism and like television criticism, because like there's a lot of shit that people don't like that they attribute to SJW-ness, where it's just like, I don't like this thing either, but I'm not an idiot. I'm not just gonna go, they forced women into it, so it sucks. And it's like, well, no, like this idea of like forced diversity is the stupidest thing in the world. If a character doesn't work, it's probably because the writing doesn't work or something along those lines. Like, I've never in my life seen something, not liked it, and went because they forced diversity or they or something, or the social justice warrior. And there's a lot of SJW, as they like to say, shit that I don't like shows
it's
or
funny
movies.
that you say that,
So it's
a lot of the, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things wrong with the live action movie, but one of the things that everybody complained was there wasn't enough diversity, and they completely whitewashed the whole movie. And I don't know.
Well, let me ask, do you think if like they wouldn't do this, but let's say they did it, not Sokka, the girl,
Suki?
Katara.
Oh.
Katara is now played by a dude, and it's a gay romance. Do you think they would have an issue with that?
Yes.
People had an issue with having a black Ariel in The Little Mermaid. I mean, if we're at that low of a threshold, do you bet your ass they'll have an issue with that?
But you know what I think they would do? Under the guise of being like progressive, they would be like, "Oh, you took away a woman's role or something like that." I don't know. It just feels like these people are not it's not that they're not capable. I think anyone's capable. They just refuse to look at a film, if they dislike a film, beyond surface level shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have noticed that nostalgia is a bitch, because so much of the shit that these people love is obviously highly, highly political. But then when you tell them that, they're like, well, no, that's different. They did it right. And it's and it's like, it wasn't in your face. And it's like, bitch, it wasn't in your face? You like Watchmen and you're going to tell me the politics wasn't in my face? You like Avatar, The Last Airbender, and you're going to tell me it wasn't in my face? Like, again, we're not going to get to the last episode, but there's so many times in this series where they almost turn to the camera and be like, yeah, shit's fucked up, yo. Like, especially in regards to like sexism, which those people, they got they got views on women, I'll put it that way. So
one quick thing to also, that way this is not dismissed, about how much that particular kind of toxic fandom has really ruined film criticism. Remember 2019? Remember that, boys and girls, like 5 years ago, 2019? Remember Captain Marvel, a film that none of us across the board really cared for, and yet we can't help but, and I think Peter also mentioned this, we can't help but just being defensive of it because of the holy hell, like, rain of shit that it got just because of Brie Larson, or like the fact that, like, I think that was the only reason why people had like a campaign against the movie, because of Brie Larson and the fact that she was advocating for more roles for women and everything. And we felt like, you know, we don't really care for the film in and of itself.
I don't like
of
Captain Marvel.
But we have to, like, at the same time differentiate our negative reaction from their negative reaction.
Yeah, because I just feel like now I can't even, like, just dislike anything, because I have to put several asterisks, like, hey, I don't hate gay people, I don't hate black people, I don't hate women, and it's like, I shouldn't have to add these asterisks to, like, dumb fucking comic book movies. Like, it's so ridiculous. But you
remember
have to.
Also, yeah, you have to. And I think we even began our initial review, our first official review of Rise of Skywalker on this show, with a disclaimer of, hey, we didn't like this movie, we're going to trash it. But if you liked it, that's great. Don't let us ruin that for you. And we're not trying to, like, ruin it for you.
Yeah.
If you liked it, that's good. Because of how Last Jedi haters went out of their way to terrorize people who like that movie.
You don't like the film, you're not a real Star Wars fan. Oh, yeah? Well, if you don't like Korra, then you're not a real Avatar fan.
I forget that also happened in this fan base, too.
Yeah, it did with Korra. Which I'm excited to watch again. Well, actually, I guess I have no way to watch it. I'll find a way. Wink.
Alexis
wink,
can
wink,
mail
wink.
you her DVDs.
Yeah,
Maybe.
mail them. Mail me the DVDs, and then I won't mail them back.
Oh my god. A couple things.
Email the
off of what you
steelbooks as
guys-
well.
No,
Not email, just regular
excuse
mail.
me.
Why not?
Going back to the live action show that's going on, I saw that this show is gonna have the biggest budget that Netflix has done.
I want
I
to.
would hope.
I would have bet you it's still not enough.
I would hope. I mean, at least that's an indication that they realize how much
Yeah.
they have to put into this for how good you would think a live action version of this would be. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also going back to like the world building and stuff. I like that we also get to see like Katara and Sokka like talk about their traditions within the Southern Water Tribe and like their food and just things like that. Which is cool because I don't think we saw the place like in the beginning, but we didn't really get to see.
The world building is
much.
really good in this show, because I feel it's never like, I never feel like I'm just getting exposition dumps. I'll put it that way. I feel like every time they kick up a new corner of the world, it's like story based or character based or like stuff like that.
By the way, before we move on from Bots of the Water Tribe, there's an interesting thing or aspect of this that I'm not sure it's been brought up, and I think it kind of fits with Iroh and his character. But so in many of these like escapades of trying to capture Aang and Team Avatar and everything, and especially here, like, we come to know that Iroh very well could, like, if he wanted to, help capture them.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He could have captured him first episode.
And yet, I find it interesting how, like, maybe one item of this that's not as discussed is how Iroh, in many aspects, just, it's not as if he's like hindering Zuko, but he's very much not in any real capacity attempting to really interfere, right? Like, he's mostly there to be supportive of Zuko, but like, no question, Iroh is like one of the most powerful benders we've seen, we will come to see in this series.
Yeah, I think he's supporting him, and in his little ways trying to help him find himself.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
because like he knows that this whole and he even says it overtly, more so in season 2, this whole like path of capturing the Avatar to reclaim your honor is one that's been made for you. It's not what you really want or who you really are, and more about, you know, pushing Zuko to be something that's not that. Yeah. Basically.
He's like a little plant, you know, he's watering it on occasionally and just,
or like a pot of tea that he's like, you know, just simmering to its perfect
just letting it brew.
Or like a donut with a hole.
Oh no.
Yes. Yeah. Just like a donut. Good, you know, but then the hole.
David walked away.
Not even
Are you happy? David walked away. He literally just walked away. Are you happy, you monster?
Yes.
I come into the conversation just
to do that. Okay, so then moving on to episode 16, it is The Deserter. Do you guys remember that one?
Remind me.
Oh, this is with Zhang. Is it Zhang? Yes, Zhang.
I don't remember.
One of the White Lotus members. He's the firebender.
That's not a thing yet, Alexis.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Are we under some kind of a pretense that people listening have not already seen the rest of the series? Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Why do you feel the need to spoil everything?
Shut up, you piece of shit. I don't spoil anything.
And you spoiled Ransom for David.
Firebending teacher. And this is the one where Aang tries firebending for the first time.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Again, it's him, Aang, having to learn some lessons. Like, firebending isn't easy, and you have to and it helps to differentiate, I feel like, from the other bending abilities.
Yeah.
And sort of with his master is really interesting because he views, you know, firebending as almost a curse, because, you know, it's all about destruction, and he's like, he obviously adverse to that, a old wise individual. You see Katara sort of learn more about her abilities as a waterbender when she heals herself. She's a healer. And what's his name? General Zhao. You also get more to him, and you build on his character and how he's impulsive and a big old dum-dum. And Aang uses that to win. So yeah, I think this is another really good episode. This is one of the better ones.
Again, there's no really any filler.
Yeah, the two
episodes.
tribe episodes. We discussed how it's shit at the very beginning.
No, but yeah, it's a I like all of the things that this episode brings. I like how Aang is very impatient in learning firebending, and like he gets the lesson of like, you know, you need to be patient, you need to listen, you need to stop, relax, and you know, you need to learn what these elements can do and what
You need to stop, drop, and roll.
Power.
I don't think he's impatient in this. The reason why he wanted to learn it is because literally this is the only person that he knows that's not against him and that knows firebending. You know, it's not, to me, it's not impatient. Like literally you are the only person that can help him. I don't think it's impatience. It's just like, it's very a smart decision to make.
I agree insofar as like having him teach him. But once he's teaching him, he's like...
But it's not impatience, though. It's just control. Like, okay.
Well, he wasn't...
Okay.
Control.
It's all about control. The thing is, though, to me, this show, it's all about patience and control. And Aang is the most patient. Is the most patient of all the characters. He's the most patient of all the characters. That's actually the reason why he wins in the final episode.
Thanks.
I'll get to it. But what?
You spoiled it.
You're
in a regular old Alexis Soto here.
Spoilers didn't matter beforehand, and all of a sudden, all it takes me, and then apparently people are like, you know, getting their panties in a twist. I mean, come on, we've spoiled the whole thing from the very beginning.
Yes.
Like, fuck it.
Okay.
And by the and Ransom is the guy that, you know, that did it. Fuck you
Again?
Fuck you.
Okay. So the reason to me,
You're back again.
Oh my god.
The reason to me why he's not impatient in this is because, you know, I think you said it, Peter, like you kind of learn this episode how you have to go about learning each of the elements. And so with fire, you need control. The reason why Aang went out of control is because air is the element of freedom. He literally used his element to do whatever he wants. In the storm, we see that he pulled a prank on other airbenders, and he can fly around. I mean, that's literally like how freedom is. Him able to fly around. He can do whatever he wants to it, and he just didn't realize that he can't do that with fire. You need control for this element.
And just to real quick sidestep the whole question of impatience and to focus on that fire thing and the element of fire bending, I also really love how the show didn't treat the four elements and learning them as the same thing. Because that would just be so and too simplistic and not at all interesting. There would be kind of no challenge then in differentiating how to learn all the elements. We know that Aang is naturally talented, and we see it later on in this season with other waterbending and everything. But particularly with fire, I love the whole maybe not like philosophy is the right word, but how you have to have a certain discipline to really have respect for the kind of destruction you can wield in your hands with fire. And it's a nice, I would say, allegory with the fact that the Fire Nation, of course, are inherently impulsive and are the ones that began the war.
And destructive, yeah. And also, like, it's such a, like, perfect thing with all the other elements. I mean, David hit it right on the nose. It is... With air, it's like it's a very liberal freedom kind of thing that's happening, and then with the water, you know, it's like more like getting in tone with your physicality. Earth is grounding, you know, you have to ground yourself, and then discipline is also another thing that's, you know, and together, like, you get like this ultimate the ultimate balance, you know. And I don't know, like, the way it deals with spirituality is so fascinating that, and they don't treat children, they're like, okay kids, today fire bending is gonna be this, you know. They're not stupid with, you know, kids. They're like, hey, this is what these things mean, and you could automatically apply it to like actual human behavior. I don't know. It's just like, it's beautifully well put, that makes it sophisticated, that kids could actually feel like, okay, this is the way it works, and they could actually learn something. This is Nickelodeon after all. I don't know. It's just like, I love the way that because by and large, while we are adults and we are talking about this show, this is a kid's show by and large, but it doesn't talk down to kids, and I think that
it's not a kid's show. It's edgy and gritty.
Remember, gritty has been banned on the show. You can't use that word.
Edgy and
gritty,
other things that's rhyme with tritty.
But yeah, I don't know. It's smart. It is a very smart show in the way it treats all its stuff, all its elements. I don't know. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful, sophisticated thing.
We just talked about this, Kyle. You weren't here. No, I mean, that came out wrong. We just talked about this aspect of what you're talking about.
He's telling you to get lost.
No. I'm saying about...
Okay, I'm sorry. Shit. Fuck. Bye.
Peter, why must you always be an agent of chaos? That came out wrong. Okay, what I'm saying is about the nature of this series and how atypical it was for programming in Nickelodeon. The fact that this, and we also mentioned the politics, and of course how fandom is so obsessed with things being like, oh, SJW and whatever, and like, fuck you for
did you mention
saying
the
a message.
P word?
The fact that this, like, again, we just mentioned it, but almost in episodes like these, and even kind of the whole construction of the concepts of this series are so overtly environmental, spiritual, political, and I'm like, it does throw it at your face like a ton of bricks. And the fact that I feel against a certain political persuasion that it's really hard to miss. And it's also rare, I think, too. The fact that it has all of these qualities and how it is as overt as it is, and yet it's great. And I would assume the same kind of people who complain about SJW politics probably don't have an issue with the series, the original series anyway, with it being that way and so loud about it. Protecting the environment, the elements, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's a good episode, I think.
Episode 20.
Oh my god.
Also, one last thing. How Aang wasn't impatient using fire. He's literally a kid, and you give him a match. I mean, he's bound to do something dangerous with it. I don't think it's impatient.
I'm saying impatient in like the way like he impatiently wanted to do firebending. Like that's what I mean. Like I'm not saying that he doesn't. Obviously, yeah, like he needs to learn control.
I don't think the words exist to really see eye to eye on this, from what I see, because there's a lot of whatever it is here about the impatience or whatever. Let's just move past that. But it's important to also note Katara and how she was burned, and the whole sequence was really visceral. And everything that does for that. So that was good. So episode 18, the waterbending. I'm sorry, episode 17.
Also,
northern.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kyle. Go ahead.
Little side note on Katara and the whole burning sequence.
I love how Peter just wants to move the fuck on, and everybody keeps pumping in with some. So go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
I was gonna say some more stuff on it being smart and teaching children lessons. Okay, let's move on.
So, Northern Air Temple, it's surprising. I'll say this. I enjoyed this far less than The Great Divide. I'll put that out there.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dang.
Wait, what? I didn't hear him. What did he say?
So he's talking about the Northern
Why
Air
do
Temple.
people turn off their ears when I talk? This has happened. This is the 20th time this has happened in this week with you, Peter. Not to mention Kyle and him walking out of the room anytime I'm talking.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Moreno.
He's talking about episode 17, the Northern Air Temple, which is the one where they go to the air temple.
Oh, and they're in machines and shit?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did he say, that it was crap?
I didn't say it was crap. I said I enjoyed this far less than The Great Divide.
Far less.
Yeah?
So crap.
I didn't say The Great Divide was crap. I said it was a good episode. And I didn't say this was a bad
But
episode.
far
I'm
less
talking
than
about
good
levels
is
of
crap.
Oh
enjoyment.
my god, okay.
Alexis, continue.
Well, I feel like we have to know it starts by like this guy like giving a story of like air nomads and stuff, and then like just being so excited and happy about like that people are actually talking about his people and his culture. And then he gets to the air temple and it's just like taken over by these set of people that are, well, they're refugees, but
Is it an allegory for like cultural appropriation?
They get to that.
I
in the
mean,
comics.
it is. He's pissed off that like they destroyed his home, and he looks at like these ancient temples that were supposed to be like holy, and there's like all kinds of machinery running in around them, and he's like, you're not a real flyer because they're using technology and stuff like that, and it's sort of this episode is him sort of coming to terms with like things have changed, and sort of being okay with that.
It's kind of like there's like a joke. I know Captain America isn't this way, but it's like there's a joke that if the real Captain America came out of the ice, he'd be like, what is this with cultural norms today? Sorry, continue.
No, but yeah. And then eventually, he comes to terms with like what's going on with his home and being like, okay, like even though they're not air nomads, they have the spirit of, or at least the kid in the wheelchair. So that was nice. And then there's also the story of the dad making weapons for the Fire Nation,
which was interesting because it sort of adds to the industrialization of what is about to kick off in the Avatar world, because they're about to hit an industrial revolution, and this is like literally right before that. So like for the first time you start to see tanks and airships,
submarines.
But in this episode specifically, and of course that shit comes back later, because with the airship specifically, like all the way to the, well, I'm not gonna be like the other two and start spoiling things, but it comes back. So yeah, again, I liked it because I think it touched on, again, a really interesting topic, not only for the character of Aang, but like in real life. Like if, how do you put it? It's like if you you're an Egyptian and you wake up 2,000 years later, and there's a Starbucks in your pyramid. I don't know. It's and sort of coming to terms with the change that has happened and the small ways in which these people carry on the spirit of the people before them. So yeah. I actually liked it. I didn't hate it like Alexis, so.
I never said I hated it. I thought it was a good episode. It's just from a standpoint of these 10, this is the one that I enjoyed the least.
Okay, thought of shit. Okay.
Why are you such a hater?
But yeah, you have anything to say?
No, you guys said it. It's just it is kind of hard seeing Aang like coming to terms with like how much has changed in this like other home of his, and but it's also but it was also nice seeing how he can also accept it, how he accepted it too, and it was a cool action scene. I like the way they stopped them using just stink bombs.
Oh yeah, there's like a little battle.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I
Episode
also
20.
it's like a little. Oh my god!
I'm kidding.
There's also a little part where Katara glides, and she eats a bug.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's funny. But yeah. Oh. If you guys could have any bending, what would it be?
Oh, earth bending.
Earth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Alexis is fire. Kyle. Kyle.
Probably air.
Okay. Water.
Probably.
Cool.
You'd want water.
Yeah. You could drown people and like they would never figure it out.
Oh my god.
Oh, dude, I think honestly, spoilers. Water has the most dangerous freaking bending power.
Watch Korra.
Oh no. Oh no.
They honestly they each have their little like thing
Yeah.
that you're just like you don't touch it.
Hmm.
But so episode 18, the water bending master, which goes back to
That's what I was talking about.
sexism.
This is literally like fuck sexist, the episode. Like it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's literally a whole episode about them like, you know, you water bend like a girl. Like that's the whole fucking thing.
Mhm.
And then not only that, you know, you find out like this whole Mr. Grumpy Gills was betrothed to their grandma, but the grandma didn't, you know, she's like, fuck that, like I choose my own destiny. And then he sort of learns that lesson. Not Katara, but Katara is the one that fucking stands up for herself. It's the master that learns the lesson of like, hey, don't be sexist. That ain't cool. Stay in school. And yeah. So and then what's his name starts hanging out with the white-haired lady.
The moon spirit.
Hey, fucking spoiler. Oh my god. Anyway, yeah. And I remember watching that episode and it's like, oh my god, if this came out today, there'd be like 50 YouTube videos on this episode alone about how they're indoctrinating our children and how Katara's an SJW and da. Like there would be so much bullshit. Like really, she's never water bended before in her life, but she's able to stand up to the greatest water bending teacher in the world. Just because she's a woman. Like, oh my god, I can tell you word for word the bullshit that would be spewed if this episode was like dropped yesterday. Oh my god.
I think it's like interesting too because they would totally be saying that, but like Katara lost.
Yeah, but I mean they said the same thing when I'm not okay. Never mind. I'm not bringing it up.
Don't bring it up, please. We knew what you were
bringing it up. You know what I'm gonna bring up.
No,
and I'm not
Peter.
bringing it up. I'm not doing it.
Okay. No, but yeah, I think this is a really cool
Episode 8, the last
episode.
one. Okay, no. Sorry. Go ahead.
He had to get out of his system.
No, yeah.
This is just a really good episode. We get to see like a real waterbending master, like how like their full capabilities of what they can do, and it's also just a great introduction to the Northern Water Tribe. I mean, literally, like, the gates open and, like, you just see it's literally a city.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because I can't, like, fully confirm it, but I believe that the Southern Water Tribe was how this Water Tribe was, but because of
I feel that that's
the invasion.
Yeah, I feel that's the implication that
yeah.
that's what it was. And
Well,
it was...
not to like the full extent, but it was
Right.
bigger, obviously. So it's interesting to see that, and then it's also interesting, like, you know, I mean, yeah, going back to like the sexism, like only the guys learn water bending, and then the women are healers, and it's like, why?
Especially in the war, it's
especially in a war.
But
That's
I mean,
so weird.
if we're looking at, like, there's a lot of, like, ancient traditions where it's like, weren't too kind to women.
Pretty much all of them.
Yeah, most of them, I would say, probably. So
Remember
it does.
foot binding?
Wait, remember? You make it sound like I was alive for that shit, like when it was normal. I think there's still people today that do that shit, but obviously.
I was talking to Moreno.
Oh, that's right.
Just
She's
so
like
dumb.
350,000.
What the heck?
You're the ancient one.
I mean, we've called her old as fuck, but you have to say her actual age. I mean, that was
Yeah, I shouldn't have
rude.
said 3,581. You will only be referred to now as the ancient one.
Hasn't that character been culturally appropriated enough?
Oh, that's right.
I mean,
oh my god.
whitewashed or whitewashed. I guess.
Whitewashed. We can brownwash it.
Also, was this the episode where Zhao blows up, air quotes, Zuko, or is that the next episode?
No, it's this episode.
This episode?
Yeah. Because then remember,
And
what's his
yeah.
name accepts the invitation to attack the. Is it the
Iroh.
the Northern Water Tribe?
also, Iroh, like,
Yes.
breaks my heart when he sees the ship explode.
Yeah, he
Oh,
freaks
no.
out. Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
That's right. Yeah. And then the next episode is where a lot of shit happens.
So I don't know if you guys want to talk about both episodes because it's like part
It's
one.
kind of
and part
it's a
two.
two-parters. Yeah.
Okay, so episode
It's technically
19 and
one long
20,
Mhm.
the Siege of the North.
Siege of the North.
Go
The
ahead,
North
Peter.
remembers.
You have a lot to say.
In a world. No. Is really good. Well, first of all, I just want to say, like, again, visually, fuck, I don't know how they're gonna do it because the Southern Water Tribe, that shit looks like fucking Minas Tirith times 20. Like, it's fucking huge and like pretty detailed for again an animated Nickelodeon television show. The battle is, again, what's really interesting is to see how armies of benders go to war. So like you see some water benders try and like use the ice to get the ship stuck, which, by the way, goes back to the second episode when they sneak onto that abandoned
Fire
Nation ship.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, and it's the same thing. It's like ice sticking into the ship and it's sort of hoisted up, and then here you actually see those tactics used, and it's like, oh fuck, that's cool. Like, they carried that all the way through. And it's such a small thing, but it's cool in that way. And of course, like, they're trying to block like the fireballs that they're throwing, the fact that they only attack during the day because the waterbenders derive their power from the moon, but the firebenders derive their power from the sun. Like, interesting shit.
It does explain that for the 100 years why the Northern Water Tribe hasn't fallen yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of difficult. Like, you can really exhaust, as Zhao does in this episode, a lot of resources just trying to get, the upper hand.
They're like
Yeah.
Russia.
It could be yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's true historically.
In a way.
Many people have tried to conquer Russia, but it's so goddamn cold. They're like, fuck this. And they're just not able to do it.
And they're like in the middle of the ocean where that's their power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their bending abilities are literally fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
And as Peter mentioned, it's fucking cold.
Yeah, it's cold. Fuck that. Sokka marries the moon. Wait, I should explain that.
Well, this also is
you
another
take
episode
the moon,
of.
and you take the sun.
You take everything that seems like fun. Rada. Fuck all that for a second. I love the spirit world. I love the spirit world. And I love the creature he talks to that, like, steals people's faces.
The face of what? The face of, what's his name called?
The face of Bo.
Yeah,
The face of Bo.
Is that its name?
Fucking Doctor Who. No, that's Doctor Who. Or
Oh,
something.
no one watches
The face
it,
of
so
Bo
I
is
don't know.
what
It turned into
No, it was the
SJW
thing.
trash, so you know.
Cole or something like that. I'll look up the name.
Yeah, it's Ko.
Code.
K-O-H.
Yeah.
Mhm. But
I
like,
looked it up and there's scary pictures.
also there's hints at, like, the way he says, like, once in a past life he tried to murder me because I stole the face of someone you love. Like, there's just so much interesting shit that's just lightly hinted at concerning, like, the spirit world, this particular creature, and just fuck. I don't like using this word, but I'm gonna use it. The lore. I did it. I said it. I said it. I used the L word.
You could just use the mythos or mythology.
Yeah,
They're
but
better.
just like the mythology behind a lot of this shit is really interesting. Like, it's fun. And again, it's all story wise though. Like, he has a very story specific reason for entering the spirit world. Yeah.
Peter,
Yeah, what's up?
you need to watch Korra.
I probably should, yeah.
You need to watch Korra.
Well, I'm waiting till I finish these
one?
show, and then I don't watch the show 5 times in a row like you. I'm trying to go in accordance with this, you know. I thought we were all going to go 10 episodes at a time. Apparently not. But okay.
I am. Just watch it and then start all over.
That's not what I mean. God damn it.
Like, okay, let's do a head count. Like, David, I'm pretty sure you've watched it along with Alexis. Alexis Soto, I'm pretty sure you finished it.
No, I know Alexis Soto has, because he uses my Netflix. So at first, I noticed, like, oh, okay, he's a couple episodes ahead of me. All right. And then, like, the next day, I look, and it's like, what the fuck? All 3
He's already in
seasons
book 3.
watched completely.
We finished the show in 3 days once. Like, when it first came out on Netflix, we finished it in 3 days.
It took him, like,
We
one.
finished Korra in 3 days.
Oh my god. It was crazy.
Let me just say, it was a kind of a bad week for me. Like, so I kind of needed it to finish it.
You needed your hit.
I needed something. Yeah.
No, but yeah, I really like the spirit world as well here, and the face guy. I mean, I don't know if you're gonna do this, but he comes out in the comics and he's kind of a big part
Oh.
in Zuko's story.
In Zuko's?
So,
Oh.
So it's really cool, like how he plays. So I recommend that you read that too. It's like a 3-part comic book. They're really short. I think it's called The Search. And it's really cool.
Because I know they did a comic series, like, following their adventures after the show.
Yeah.
But I don't know how,
It's
like, long it is, or...
Well, because it's like, there's 3 parts
Mhm.
to each story, but I think there's like 4 stories out, I think. But like you can like you don't have to read all of them. You could do it by parts.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like books basically. Like, yeah.
Okay.
The first one after the show is called the Promise, and then it's the Search, and I can't remember what's next.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really interesting.
So since we're talking
You
about
get-
Zuko,
By the way, I was listening to the episode that you guys did, and you guys were briefly talking about Avatar, ever so briefly, like 30 minutes.
I know, right? That wasn't even scheduled. It
Wait,
just-
what episode?
happened.
About Avatar:
We're-
The Last Airbender.
No, our Red Spotlight. We were talking about
The
what
live
were we talking
action.
about, Kyle?
The
live action
It's
TV show.
HBO Max's The Snyder Cut or something like
Okay.
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And you guys mentioned the Avatar, how like there's been like talks of what ideas ideas thrown around of a fourth book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
What-
like season 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, apparently
like what ideas are thrown out there. I meant to ask you guys, but
I think Zuko's mom would have been a big part of it, right? The search for
I
that?
read the best source in the world, Wikipedia, and I think originally they had wanted to come back and do like a movie, Nickelodeon movie, but like for TV, a for TV Nickelodeon movie. But
I was like that hasn't been done.
yeah. But Nickelodeon said Shale, so they did not, and they instead did the comic series, which would have been, I guess, the movie. But then, of course, they moved on to Korra. And at first,
that's the
Korra
weird
was
thing
supposed to be a
is-
miniseries, but then after
Right.
they were already done
lot of
with
things
season
changed.
1, they're like, oh, by the way, you get 3 more seasons, but we're not going to advertise and it's not going to air on TV. Like, so much
Yeah, that's
weird
the-
shit. Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that happened. But if I'm not mistaken, there were initial discussions, and I think Alexis, you and David might. I think you did mention in that episode that you were listening to the audio commentaries that there were plans of whatever stage that Book 4 air was a possibility, but that Nickelodeon wanted to put as much output into the film by M. Night Shyamalan, right?
I
Isn't
said
that
that.
how the...
Yeah.
I think
I
Waste.
think David said that, and then I said
Yeah,
that
here goes. Yeah, Kyle?
Waste.
Yeah. Yeah.
Waste. Holy shit.
creators-
Like,
Sorry.
so sorry I keep on cutting you guys, but like, holy shit, what a fucking waste. Because like I haven't read the comics, but I've read the great Wikipedia synopsis. Holy shit, it sounds so freaking good. Like the whole like bit with Zuko's mother and everything like that, it sounds so fucking brilliant that it's such a shame that those stories never got to the visual medium that it deserved.
Oh. Okay. I like that they're comic books. I don't. The thing is that like they're really cool stories and stuff, but there's not this like big overall arc as how it is in the first, like in the series. So I think doing comic books, I think that's fine because it's just
I think
them,
both things are... Yeah.
I don't know, because this is his story. Like, this is what he went through as an avatar, like how Kyoshi, like that conqueror guy wanted to take over and stuff. Like, this is Aang's story.
it would have been like El Camino, basically.
It's-
like you don't
yes, that-
really
you're
need
right.
to know about it, but it's nice to see it.
Yeah.
I think two statements can exist in the same continuum. One, it's a shame that a fourth season of the quality and caliber of this series was basically sacrificed in favor of the M. Night Shyamalan disaster that we will never forget. And the fact that, well, The Last Airbender, in many ways, is remembered as fondly because it ended at the point where it
Needed
really
to
felt
end.
its most natural, and a continuation of that in a fourth season wouldn't have been as
I'm
good.
going farther.
But here's
Fuck
the
a
thing.
fourth season. I like no. I don't care if it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People need to learn when to fucking end things. And
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
good, if you're there at the end of the story, the natural end of the story, and you're craving more, good. That means the show did its job.
Yeah.
And it does. You don't need to just keep watching until you like. It's sort of like eating, right? Like if you eat the meal and you're like, that was good. You know, I would love some more, but like you don't just keep eating and eating until you vomit and go like, oh, I'm sick. But that's kind of the way television and film to, you know, sequel after sequel. But like people just can't learn to be like, okay, this story is done now. Let's tell other stories. Like,
I'm glad that there were comics. I was so happy years ago when I discovered that there were comics, because it means that the longevity of this has gotten to the point where it's like, okay, it's remained in the pop culture zeitgeist, which really like validates like our original love for this series. Like for David and I, who watched this when it was airing all those years ago. But again, like I agree wholeheartedly with Peter. It's the reason why we remember it so fondly was because of that amazing finale. And what's even harder sometimes is reconciling, even though the material after an amazing finale can be good, it can only be after the finale, you know? It can never top it. The emotional highs came to a crescendo in the finale. Like nothing can come close to that afterward. It can't.
Yeah. But like when one can make the argument, because like there's again, I'm going to bring up Steven Universe again. Steven Universe came out with an epilogue series called Steven Universe Future, and it dealt with the aftermath of all the chaos that was left in the wake of the primary 5 seasons that aired. And that really worked out really well. And like it
now. I don't know.
Okay, I don't know where you hear that
Tumblr, bitch.
But like I find that I don't know.
I think it's just, I mean, I freaking love the show, obviously, you know, but I just think it was the perfect show. It was the perfect ending. And I like that they didn't continue the story and they moved on to the next person. But we still get to see those stories just in comic books. Like, they're still there. We still get them. They're just not on TV, because I think
so
that
if we can,
although they are really good stories, we don't need to see them on TV. Like, they're not, the height of the show is not as big in the comics, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, they're interesting stories. And they're interesting stories because we like the characters, you know? But like, that's it.
On to episode 20.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like.
Yeah, that was a
So small things that I liked. You finally get to see Aang being overwhelmed by the whole thing now. Alex, to me, I think this is where he finally hits a breaking point, because he basically breaks down, going like, I can't do this. This is way too much for me and all that. Another thing, Sokka. He gets another cool moment in this episode where he basically just knows more than everyone else. And
it's funny because at first they kind of take him for granted because he's from this. They're not his people, but like they are.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But yeah, like he basically is like, no, fuck you. Like, I know what I'm doing. Like, you guys need to listen to me. So yeah, that's interesting.
Katara, she's really able to stand on her own now, like far more than ever.
His girlfriend turns into the moon.
His girlfriend
the
turns
spiritual aspect of of these 2 episodes, with like Zhao, his plan is like basically to kill the moon spirit, which is what gives the waterbenders their power.
And even Iroh is like,
yeah, that's a really cool thing that like Iroh. Oh wait, well, there's 2 things with Iroh. One is when
it's a lot of stuff with Iroh. Like he's the MVP. I love him here.
Yes.
Well, to me, the 2 that stick out the most is when Zuko leaves, like to go catch Aang on his own, and he's like basically like, or he does say, I think of you as my own after I lost my son. And Zuko's like, I know, like, it's so sad.
But that moment, though, you know, Mako's performance of that, when he literally breaks, like you see his voice break while he's delivering that, like the pain that is there, like, breaks you.
Yeah.
It's so good.
The voice acting for Iroh is like
the best.
dang. But yeah, and then like after when he's leaving and he's like stay warm and stuff, and Zuko's like, I know.
Cover your ears.
I think that was a really good moment. And then when you get to like the water spirit stuff, and Iroh is literally like, I will, basically saying, I will kill you if you do this. Like, and he literally says, I will unleash all of my power on you. Like, do not do this, because he knows, like, you don't mess with them spirits.
Yeah, that's just the thing. It's like you're always so like shocked, and there's always moments of these in different kinds of shows and movies where it's like when some bad guy gets the idea, I know, let's try and kill the spirits or the gods, and then some guy looks at him like,
are you stupid?
You don't mess with spirits. What the fuck? Like, you don't want that shit on you. Like, that's not a good idea. That's not gonna amount to any kind of good for anybody.
It's
but
like,
also,
it's like Belloc and the Nazis at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It's basically that, and it also reminds us about Iroh and the fact that, you know, they also say that I think Zhao says to him, like, I know we all know that you traveled into the spirit world at one point and blah 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 blah, but again, it also just adds more dimension to Iroh, like where his loyalties really lie, and that is with the spirit world and not really the Fire Nation. You know, it's interesting because like this entire time you don't really see Iroh like have any kind of like pettiness or like, you know, anger toward the Fire Nation per se. I mean, like not like he wears it on his sleeve, right? Like no kind of like resentment, right? For like how he's been like so dressed down after his like greatest military failure at Ba Sing Se, but like this took it to like a whole new level, like where he was like, I will fucking kill you if you kill that fish. Like, back the fuck off.
I think it's so.
It still gives me chills, like the way he acted in that scene. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, and like again, like with his tunage, I would, you know, with the spirit world, I guess it's like what he's risen above. When he's with when he's talking about, like, you know, the Fire Nation, and it's like it's kind of like pettiness with the inner complexities of the war between the nations. He's just like, you know, I've been to the spirit world. The world is much bigger than the problems here on Earth, I guess. And I don't know. I find that really fascinating of where he is, like, spiritually, and it kind of it's like the Jedi, you know, the way that the Jedi are and or supposed to be. Excluding the shittiness of what the Jedi were in the prequels. No, how like it's supposed to be a perfect balance, a yin and yang kind of thing between the earth and spirit world, you know, and the way that he views that is really intricately done. That's good. It's good. It is good. That's
and
all.
And you get to see him beat the shit out of Fire Nation people, so that's fun too. But yeah.
And then Aang kills.
And then Aang.
Well, technically, it was the water spirit. It was
using
over his body.
It's a technicality.
Can we stop with the fucking semantics? Okay, so the act of killing happened while the spirit was using Aang's body as a conduit, but later on, Aang feels responsible for the massacre. shall we say? But nobody feels bad because they're Nazis, so you know.
Well,
It's also interesting. I don't know if it happened in this episode or if it happened in the last episode. How when the Fire Nation are like about to get there and the what's it called? The ashes start falling down and Sokka's like, oh crap, I've seen this before.
oh yeah, that's a really cool visual.
Yeah. Just like they're coming. But yeah. And then it's also cool when Iroh looks at Yue and he's like, oh, like you can help. And like the fact that he knew that was like is cool. And then, you know, Sokka loses his girlfriend because she turned to the moon.
I love how when he had that heart to heart with Zuko later in 3, and he was like, you know, that's rough, man. Okay, remember when they were gonna spring out his dad?
We know what you're talking about.
I know what you're talking
Spoilers.
about.
You keep talking about later shit.
Yeah. I don't know. What else? I mean, they win in the end. And then Katara becomes Aang's waterbending
Teacher.
master.
Oh yeah, her
Because she beat
waterbending
him.
teacher.
So to the point that Peter keeps saying, how do they do this? Just that visual of the Avatar state, like spirit, water monster, whatever thing. How does that work in live action?
We'll ask M. Night Shyamalan.
Wait, they did that? I
No, they
forgot that
didn't.
movie. Okay.
No.
It was like a giant wave. I think that's it.
It was just a giant wave, which I didn't mind it because it's like it was still pretty cool. The only thing that he got wrong though is that Aang doesn't really go to the Avatar state in that scene. It's all the fish doing the work.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't know how to go into the Avatar state yet.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah,
interesting.
the next episode will cover that.
But yeah, that's it.
That's season 1 or
That's
book
season
1.
I do
Water.
agree. I think Alexis said it that this. I feel like season 1 gets a lot of not like hate, but just it gets overlooked a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really good.
Well, I get we never really talked about this, like, but among like the 3 books, which do you feel is like the most like cherished?
Book 3.
Book 3, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think it's not fair because again, it's like where the most growth has happened, and that's where you established your staying power, love for the series with book 3, like because it's just really rudimentary. They're still growing, and I think that gets lost in the conversation of why 1 is probably overlooked because like the better half of like their growth happens within like the better half of the second book and the third book.
Plus, people love payoff. And 3 is
Yeah.
all
It's
about
the ending,
payoff.
you know,
Yeah.
so that we will talk
Yeah.
about how endings work. Does anyone here consider book 1 to be their favorite season?
I kind of want to say book 2 might be my favorite.
Well,
Yeah,
I
same.
mean, never mind. You guys have already rewatched everything. I was gonna say, for me, I gotta wait till I rewatch everything. So, yeah.
Book 1, 2, and 3 I consider to be 1.
Cop
Okay,
out.
so you've
bitch.
just come-
Oh, he always
Yeah, that's
does
just
that
the
cop
fucking,
out
like-
shit. God damn it.
It's all work in unity. It's a trinity.
Okay, all movies are 1, so all movies are my favorite movie.
Oh boy. Well, anything else?
No.
Nah.
All right. Before we go, we should remind everyone listening, wherever you're listening, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, that we are going to be leaving our original home of Wooshka on June 28th. We have moved our database of practically 5, almost 6 years worth of podcasts to our new RSS feed called Castbox.fm. I have that right, Kyle?
Yep.
Okay, great. And so
You will get
if
viruses.
if you've stopped getting this on Wooshka, on the description of the episode, there should be like a whole announcement that Kyle did that will give you more background as to why we did this. So there's that, but the feeds will remain obviously on Spotify and Apple. And yeah, we have other shows coming at you. To the Table, coming back with Tron Month. So keep an eye out for that.
Have you guys watched
Thank you, Peter.
it yet?
Thank you, Alexis
Okay.
and David and Kyle, and we will see you next time. Stay under the spotlight. Bye-bye.